Bill Vanderbenton is going to be presenting the program today. Bill's a graduate of Calvin College and has a degree in education. And he came in and he showed me his in-service, and I thought it'd be a good one to have here for everybody here. His career includes working for 15 years as director of Grand Rapids YMCA and 14 years as an administrator at local retirement communities and nursing homes. During those years, he spent 10 years as an on-call paid firefighter for Walker, City of Walker, right? Yep, City of Walker, and 5 years as chaplain for Sparta Fire Department, and presently with the Grand Rapids Fire Department. And he'll be assisted by on-duty member of Grand Rapids Fire Department. Get your name?
Ted.
Ted. So, where you get started, so. It should take about 45 minutes to an hour. If you need to leave because you have to get to a case, we'll understand. Okay? Yeah. Hey, Bill, it's all yours.
Good. Just, I guess, kind of a overview. She mentioned about the retirement communities. Years ago, when Larry actually got started in this business, I helped him get started because I was the administrator of Heather Hills Retirement Village. So if any of you have ever been to Heather Hills, or their care center, which was Sherbrooke at that time, or Meadowlark Retirement Village, part of Porter Hills, and those are the communities I was part of. So, and it was kind of that passion that brought us to the point as far as working with seniors in the community, as far as some fire prevention, some fire safety things, and also some fall hazards, and those are some of the things we're going to try and help you with today. We've done this is I think the 12th presentation we've done already, and we've only been going for about 3 months, so it's been well received. We've been going into a lot of the retirement communities. We've been to Villa Maria, we've been to Beacon Hill. There's a whole long list. We've been going to churches with their senior citizen groups. I just booked another one yesterday. But we also wanted to go to the healthcare agencies, because you're the people that actually get into homes of the seniors. Whether you're there for a couple hours to do some nursing stuff or some rehab, or if you're there for 8 hours just home health care, whatever that might be. And it follows right along with your mission statement, as safely as possible. And as part of that safety kinds of stuff, we just want to show you some of the things that we see in the Grand Rapids Fire Department, unfortunately, on a regular basis. And as you know, if you work with the seniors, or people who may be handicapped in one form or another, they can't move very fast, perhaps the eyes are going, a variety of things. And so hopefully we can educate you, point some things out to you that, and it'll be up to Kathy or Larry, the administration, as far as if you see some of these hazards, you'll need to, how do you identify that? You talk with the residents themselves that you're working with, you talk with the family, you pass it on to your supervisor, and does your supervisor get a hold of the family, and so on and so forth. But hopefully the things we're going to show you will really help you and also make you as an employee, as well as the healthcare associates or community caregivers, whichever branch or both that you work for, should help them out. So that's kind of a very brief background. I'm going to start with this little chart right here. How many of you in high school or maybe college took a course called chemistry? Anybody? Okay, a good portion of you. That's good. Well, as you know, in chemistry, if you put 1 or 2 or 1, 2 or 3 or 1, 3 and 4 things together, something happens. Okay, fire is kind of the same thing. And in this, we call it the fire triangle. When these 3 things get together, all of a sudden, we've created a fire. Okay, first of all, we have to have oxygen. Okay, and we've got it, right? I mean, we're breathing it, it's all around. Secondly, you have to have fuel. You have to have something that's going to burn. Now, that could be paper, that could be wood, could be gasoline, anything that's, quote, flammable that could burn. We have to have that along with the oxygen. And then finally, you need to have heat, something hot enough to ignite that fuel to mix with the oxygen to create the fire. The thing is, on some things, we'll start on fire a lot quicker than others. A newspaper, for example, will start at maybe 120, 130 degrees, whereas maybe wood or something very hard may have to get up to 200 degrees. So when these three things come together, we have fire. We're going to demonstrate that. I'm going to take just this candle here, and I have a candle. Okay, I have oxygen in the air. I have the candle, which is the fuel, and I've taken the lighter to create the heat in order to ignite it. Okay, so I've created fire. Now, who can tell me what's going to happen when I put this cover on? Okay, it's going to go out. And why is that? Okay, we've taken away one of the three parts of the fire triangle. So it's the demonstration of that is, of course, if we can eliminate one of the three of these, then we don't have to worry about having any kind of fire. Now I've got a couple dice here. And who can tell me when two dice have the same numbers on them, what do we kind of call that? Doubles. Very good. Doubles. The reason for this being is because fire doubles in size every minute. Okay? So if it's this high in 1 minute, it's that high in 2 minutes. Okay? It's that high in 3 minutes. And that just shows you how quickly fire can spread because of this fire triangle. And we say that because how quickly you have to make a decision to do something, whether it be putting it out or get out. Okay? And you have to keep that in mind when you're working with a patient, a resident, whatever we want to call them. You need to know that the first thing has to be to remember to get out. We want to show you, who can tell me in a home, and most of you will be going to homes, some of you go to facilities, understand that. But when you're in a home, what area is the most likely to have fires in it? In the kitchen. I gave it away. But yeah, the kitchen, about just under 50% of fires will happen in the kitchen. Okay? Here's one of the culprits right here, is the frying pan. Okay, and this happens because of, I guess the term is called distraction. Whether you're cooking for one of the residents, it could be in your own home. It applies to that as well. You put something in the frying pan, something in the oven, whatever, and all of a sudden the telephone rings, somebody's at the doorbell. Okay, you may fall asleep, whatever, and all of a sudden, you smell something, or the smoke detector goes off, and oops, I forgot about this. And as we monitor our calls every day in the city of Grand Rapids, we hear kitchen fires. Well, the minute Ted or I or whoever hears that, we know, okay, guess what happened? Somebody forgot to pay attention to the frying pan or something on the stove, and that's all it took, and all of a sudden you have a kitchen fire. So the thing to remember is don't leave it. Pay attention. Stay by it. Don't go away. Here's another culprit. Now, you've all seen these. You all know what this is. True story. Ted and I have got a lot of true stories, I guess, but across the street from my house about 4 years ago, neighbor lady had her toaster out. And where do you usually put these? On the counter. Where? Under the cover. Good point. Okay, my neighbor lady, Pop-Tarts. Well, elderly for some reason, and a lot of people like Pop-Tarts because they're really easy, they go real quick. Okay, so put in a Pop-Tart, wasn't quite done, pushed it down again. She was distracted, and it was either her two cats, or somebody's at the doorbell, her daughter called on the phone, or she had to go to the bathroom. Not quite sure. All of a sudden, frosting on the Pop-Tart caught fire under the cupboard, and guess what? Cupboard's on fire, okay? So things to keep in mind: what you put in might be flammable. If you go away from it, you could create a fire. And where you position it could create a fire. So these are things that are warnings to remember. And if you might be cooking for one of the people you're working for, remember where you place these things, and again, don't leave them unattended. This is my buddy Sparky. Now, of course, the Dalmatians have always been associated with the fire department. And if you go back in history, the reason they went with the Dalmatians basically was to keep the horses calm. And years ago, when it was the fire trucks were all actually horse-drawn, they had the Dalmatians, and they helped keep the horses calm at the scene of a fire. And if you ever hear stories about if horses are trapped in barns during fires, the best thing to do is we cover them up over their heads so they can't see. Well, at a fire scene, there's going to be fire, the horses, but the Dalmatians have a tendency to calm the horses down. However, that's not the purpose of Sparky here today. We don't have last year's statistics yet, at least I haven't seen them. But the year before, in 2011, over 500 fires in the United States were caused by Sparky and his friends. Okay, and what happens here is, if people go away, they go to work for the day, they leave the dog home by himself, they leave food up on the counter, up on the stove. Dogs, cats go up, try to get at it. In the meantime, as they're going up, their paws hit one of the burners, and before you know it, they have caused a fire. So again, either on your own or in homes that you might get into, be cautious of animals, because they can be culprits just as well. And the other thing is placement of extra food that they might be interested in going at. Make sure that's not around. Okay? So that's why Sparky showed up today. Who can tell me what's in this bag? Boy, dryer lint. Exactly. Dryer lint. I would say, at least when I'm listening to our fire radio, I would say 2 and maybe 3 times a week we hear fire in the basement or fire in the dryer. Okay, now if you look at a dryer, I mean, here's this big metal piece of equipment with a tumbler inside that's all metal. None of that's going to burn, so why is there a dryer fire? This is the reason right here, because this is one of these things that are extremely flammable right away. And what happens is people do not take the lint out before they use it. So a caution for you, as you, no doubt I'm sure a lot of you have to do the laundry when you're there for these folks. Check the dryer lint and get it out right away. Now, when we get into facilities, we tell the facilities where the pipe from the dryer goes into the wall and outdoors. That's the facility's responsibility. But you as a worker or as a wife or a husband or in your own home, take this stuff out every time. This is about, it's just my wife and I, this is about 3.5 weeks worth. So it just shows you how much a lint can catch, get attached to that grill out there. So anytime a call comes in to fire in the basement, I just say to my wife, oh boy, here we go again. Somebody didn't take the lint out of their dryer. And that's exactly what it is. So keep that in mind, either on your own or when you're in someone's home or an apartment. Sometimes you may go into a retirement community, use their dryers. Just remember, take the lint out. think? What do you see wrong here?
Too many extension cords.
Too many extension cords. Okay, very good. We like to promote the one-on-one theory. You know, one cord to one lamp, one cord to one whatever. These are very dangerous when you do this. Okay? Which also brings up the thing of, you've seen the power strips and so on. Remember, there are two kinds. There are surge protectors and a power strip. And I don't know if you realize that, but when you go to a store or whatever, you know, if you have a computer, they always recommend, you know, make sure you have a surge protector. But you can also get a power strip that doesn't have a surge protector on it. But still, that is not good as well. I know our fire marshal a few months ago went into a business like this and went up and looked at one of the surge protectors and there's a big black mark right down there. Well, if you're running something into those surge protectors or power strips that draw a lot of amps, that can create fire as well. This brown cord. Anybody see what's wrong with this? Take a look at it, kind of rub your hands on it.
It's like frayed, so the, yeah.
Okay, she found some bare wires. Anything else?
My glasses on. You see
You got your glasses.
right there? They're two more frayed.
There's more frayed
Okay.
down
Some of
here.
it looked like it's not too, like it was made, somebody put it together.
Right.
You know, at the
Yeah.
base of it.
Yeah.
The weekend handyman repair job, right? Yeah. Okay, what has been pointed out here, first of all, too many wires. Remember the one-on-one theory, okay? Now this brown cord, you will see these when you get in somebody's home or even if you go to a retirement community because a lot of people bring their own chairs and lamps and stuff they have at their homes. A lot of times these brown cords indicate they're old, first of all. They can get very brittle. Okay, right here in the middle, what she found, there's some bare wires. Okay, now this could happen with a vacuum cleaner, in case you do some vacuuming. You know, be careful not to run them over because that can create that. Animals can chew on these and create that. Okay? As she pointed out, this is a weekend handyman plug. And there's also a bare wire there. And this happens sometimes because on all plugs, what people do is they have a tendency to pull it out this way on the cord. Okay? That's why you got this big thick thing here. Pull on here, don't pull on the cord. But when you got one like this, these can bend, they can create. And these are hard to find sometimes because they are kind of behind the furniture or they're underneath a rug or they're in a corner. And you may have to go out and look for it, but at the same time, something like this is a severe potential fire hazard for doing something like that. So, good observations that you did there. There's some other things that we see on a regular basis, and I'm sure you run into too. Not always the elderly, but many times that are potential fire hazards. I didn't take them with me today. But one are portable heaters. I don't know if you've seen them in places that you may have worked. Portable heaters. Some you get the little ones like this, some you get these great big ones. A couple of things that the manufacturers say when you have these is, okay, if it's bumped or tipped over, it'll automatically shut off. Well, that might be true, and hopefully it will. But if you've got anything near it that can be part of this, you're still going to have a problem because that's putting out that heat. So make sure that if they do have one, or if you have one, at least keep 3 foot away. So if they do tip over, that if they do fall, they're not going to land on something that actually could catch fire. Okay? So that's one thing we see. Outdoor grills. Sometimes you may have to cook for the folks, say, you know, I'd like a hamburger, a steak on the grill, you may go out and use that. Sometimes it's done in the garage. Bad thing to do. Sometimes you're too close to the building because the grease in the frying pan or whatever you use can flare up. You might have a leak in the propane tank or whatever. So you've got to, I would say, at least 6 foot away from a building. Actually, the code in Grand Rapids is a lot longer than that. But at least 6 foot away, because you don't want to have those portable grills. It's the same thing with turkey fryers. I don't know if you, quite often, I know Ted was involved with a demonstration of turkey fryers that we did at our training center. But those things are like lethal weapons if you don't know how to use a turkey fryer. And I would bet every Thanksgiving there's a fire someplace because of a turkey fryer. Either because they didn't know how to use them or where they used them. I think it was 4 years ago in Grand Rapids, somebody used a turkey fryer on his wood deck. Well, didn't know how to properly put too much oil in the fryer. It was too hot, put the turkey in, everything went out. Well, you know what happened. The wood deck caught on fire and so on and so forth. So those, you have to be, think first whether you're doing this on your own or for residents. Another one you may run into that we see quite often is people will use their ovens for heating. Okay, and I see a lot of heads shaking, a lot of things I'm mentioning you see on a regular basis. But they use their ovens for heating. Well, you've created a fire right there. So, and it really doesn't save any energy because you're using just as much gas as if you would. Careless smoking is always a problem. I had a good friend who, let's see, right before Christmas, lived out here in the Granville area, and it was careless smoking on the Davenport. The wife woke him up at 4:30 in the morning, screaming, and he got her out of the house, and the house was fully engulfed. By the time the fire department got there, the only thing that was left was the basement. And she died about 3.5 weeks later of third-degree burns over 50% of her body. And it was all due to careless smoking. So, and most of the time is people either fall asleep or they improperly discarded any of the ashes. So, you know, this is a constant battle. If you're in a home where that's happening, you know, warn the residents. And unfortunately, we see so often, you may too, there's even oxygen in the house. And the one I referred to, the lady was on oxygen as well. So, and the final one is, I used a candle as a demonstration to demonstrate the fire triangle, but we do not encourage candles in the home. I know maybe a lot of people you work for like to have them, but whatever you do, if you can discourage it, because you've got a fire going right there. And if, you know, we have a lot of times there are fires started by candles. So keep those things in mind. Okay, you all recognize these, right? And a couple of things. Ted, pretty soon before we're done, is going to talk about a program we're doing in Grand Rapids. And a lot of things that we're pointing out are things for you to kind of look at. If you're in somebody's home, or even in a residential community, a retirement community, or healthcare community, whatever it is, you know, keep your eyes and ears open for these kinds of things. But anyway, obviously, yeah, these are smoke detectors. It may bother your ears a little bit, but you know, push down that top button and hold it. No, right here, this one here. Hold it down. Okay. Okay. That's good. The middle button, push it down and hold it. Okay, both smoke detectors. They're both good, right? Wrong. They're not. This is the new lithium smoke detectors. There's one battery in here. They come with that battery, and you do not have to replace it. They're called lithium. If you go to stores, you can see those. These are good. This one is not. All that we have demonstrated here is that these both have batteries in them, and they both have batteries work. This one is not good because on the back of these, there has to be a manufacture date. This manufacture date is 1997. Okay, after 10 years, the sensors that are in here are no good anymore. Now this one was manufactured in 2006, April 2006. This one is still good for another 3 years. Okay, then this one is no good anymore. And again, so there's a lot of emphasis you see nowadays on the news, you know, replace your batteries and your smoke detectors and so on and so forth, which is great. But they don't say, check the expiration date on your smoke detector. And this is something, some of these you can recognize. If you're in someone's home or someone's apartment, a lot of time the size will give it off or the color. You know, these are some of the earlier ones that are made. They're big and not too colorful. The new ones are smaller and white. That doesn't always say they are, but they're real easy to, you know, take down and take a peek. If you're in somebody's home and you've got 10 minutes, if they got a little step ladder or so on, take it down and just look on the back and just see what the expiration date is. If they're more than 10 years, again, whatever policy, and I mentioned, Kathy, when you were out, that if these folks or any of them find things, if they're in someone's home, that'll have to be a policy from management, whether or not they tell the resident or they tell their supervisor, and then through that get back to the family.
Yeah,
That'll have to be a policy thing for you to take care of.
They would call the nursing department.
Yeah, okay. So call the nursing department, report it to them, then they can get with the family. And you would be surprised how many kudos you're going to get for that, just by saying, hey, you know, we've done something to, as safely as possible, take care of the people that we're helping and that we're working for. So this is a big, very important. And again, when, okay? So keep that in mind. And from a personal standpoint, check the ones in your own home. The other thing to look for, if you're in somebody's home and they don't have them, that should be reported to nursing as well. And pretty soon, Ted's going to talk just briefly about a program, at least if these are in the city of Grand Rapids. We've got some core areas that we're putting these in for nothing, just to protect people. So Ted will talk about that. Along that line, this is also a carbon monoxide detector. And it kind of goes along with the same thing as far as smoke detectors. In fact, you can get new ones now on the market that will do smoke, fire, heat, and carbon monoxide all in one. Okay, this is one that came out of my house, and it's not in there anymore because this is expiration of December of '97. But again, true story. 5 years ago, give or take some months, my daughter calls me at 2:30 in the morning and says, Dad, our carbon monoxide detector is going off. What do we do? Get out of the house and get over to our house. Next morning, the furnace repairman came and 2 broken flues in the furnace. Okay? Had they not had one of these, I would have lost my daughter, my son-in-law, and 3 grandkids. And that's a true story. So this is also something to look for in homes, especially if they have natural gas as the reason for heating, and also for your own. And I can't emphasize that more. And again, these are just true stories that come to light. So something to keep in mind. I don't know I haven't spent time with Kathy, but I don't know within your employee manual if you have some procedures as far as what to do if you're in someone's home or someone's apartment, as far as if there is a fire, what do you do? Do you stay in place? Do you get out? So on and so forth. I don't know if there is such a thing in your manuals. Hopefully there is. The key thing is I think if you're there working with a resident, a patient, whatever terminology we're going to use, if you see a fire, the best thing to do is get them and you out and then make the call and let us take care of it. And only because of the dice, okay? Doubles every minute. If you're trying to get it out and all of a sudden it's gotten way too big and then you might be trapped, you can't get out either. Your first responsibility is them. So that would be our suggestion from, from that standpoint. Is there anyone here, this is a question, is there anybody here when they were a kid wanted to be a firefighter? Nobody dares. No, nobody dares say that. Kathy, come up here, man. We'll pick on Kathy.
He already told me he was going to do that.
No surprises.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to turn over to Ted. We got to set a turnout gear here.
I already have hot flashes. You're going to make me get dressed.
And what I want you to do, as Ted explains, what we have to wear all the time on a fire, that by the time Kathy is totally ready to go, with the exception of one piece of equipment, give a guess on how much more weight she has put on during that time.
And I need that because I'm skinny.
Pull them up, there you go. Okay, everybody remember, Bill's kind of a skinny guy here. Even when I put him on, I gotta struggle with these pants. They're just like...
I'm not skinny, so.
Okay, first thing we start off with, everybody knows in a fire, what do? We come in and we squirt water, right? So, we gotta have boots that are gonna protect us from the water and the heat, because in a fire, within 4 minutes, in a room this size, the ceiling temperature is well over 1100 degrees, the floor temperature is well over 600 degrees. And just for an example, what do we cook turkeys at? 325. So when you open up that oven from a turkey, how's that feel, that breath of heat blowing in your face? Pretty hot. So, on the floor level, at 600 degrees, we have insulated boots to walk on if we're going to walk, but we won't be walking because why? On the ceiling level, that's where all that black toxic cloud of arsenic, cyanide, and carbon monoxide is. Okay, that comes down to about here, just below your knees. So, we have rubber boots on that are insulated. We also have insulated pants made of Nomex. Nomex is a fire retardant. There's no such thing as fireproof. All things will burn, even concrete, oddly enough. Okay, these are insulated. These also have knee pads on it. Extra insulation and extra cushion because thick black toxic cloud that we can't see through, we're crawling around on our knees with insulated pants. Next thing we're going to have, hold on, our fashionable evening wear. Got to protect every part of our body, correct? So, once again, we have a Nomex jacket. Inside the jacket, you will see we have an insulated liner. We also have, and can you turn around?
Yeah.
Okay. You can see we got reflective striping, and across the bottom, we have the GRFD. That way, when most fires, let's back up a little bit. Most fires occur, does anybody know when most home fires occur? Nighttime, between 10 o'clock at night and 5 in the morning. We're usually doing what then? Sleeping. Okay. So, it's dark, it's night, we need reflective stripes, that way we know where all of our people are running around. The GRFD just identifies us because right now we have mutual aid, which means if there's a fire, Wyoming could be reporting too. Or Granville, or Alpine,
Or
who knows?
Boulder.
Okay, can you turn back around? Yep. Insulated jacket, insulated sleeves all the way down. This goes over the thumb, but we got one of the pockets. gloves, special gloves. Do you want to put these on? Sure. These gloves have a plastic liner. They're also insulated. They're a leather product, but they're also insulated with the Nomex on the inside. But the plastic liner is to protect us from that water that we're putting in there, because once it soaks into your gloves, you're pretty much done. Anybody been outside in the wintertime with wet gloves? How fun is that? Not at all. We got to keep comfortable, and we got to be able to function during it.
That over my head?
This is what we call a Nomex hood. Just kidding. Actually, it is a Nomex hood. No, we're not going to put it on.
Okay, good.
I'll put it on, though.
Okay.
Because in a fire, we want to protect every part of our body. We have the Nomex hood that goes, get over my collar, protects the back of your neck, protects the ears. Very, very, very important, because you just don't realize how hot the fire is getting. You know, 1,100 degrees down here, 600 degrees down here, your ears are going to get cooked. So, we don't have a respirator. Usually have a mask on too. This goes up over the top of the respirator. Last piece of fashion, I'll let you try it. It's tight.
Good.
Brain squeeze. You'll notice that it also has a protective liner for the back of your neck. Protects the head when there's a fire, things are falling and breaking and burning. We want to protect the head from all kinds of injuries, because we have to still remain to be able to think through the whole situation. It also has an insulated liner inside of it to try and protect the skull, because what happens when your brain gets too hot? We don't think. Okay? How heavy do you feel?
Pretty heavy.
Want to take a walk around?
Sure. It's not easy to walk in it.
Not at all. Can you guess how many pounds you got on?
Probably, I would say 70 or 80 pounds. Is it more than
Do you
that?
know how much your gear? I'm sorry? I know, we don't have a tank yet.
Yeah.
How much does your gear weigh?
With the tank, quite often you'll see us with an air pack on the back. Years ago, we used to use oxygen, but now we use compressed air. So if I've got all that stuff on with a tank, I've added how much? Guess. 100, 60. It's about 50 pounds, give or take. But just think about that. If you were carrying an extra 50 pounds, and all of a sudden you had to physically work hard and go into a fire type of thing.
Carrying a ladder around, dragging a hose through the building, and you're
Right.
doing this on your hands and knees. Okay?
So,
So it takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of extra weight. My hair's all messed up, I know.
I told you, you gotta get one of these. So we show that to you for demonstration purposes, but just to get a better feel for what we go through, on a regular basis. And I'm just thinking this past Sunday night, I've seen on Alpine Avenue, we had a large structure fire. And, everybody's in this stuff. On that one, we did not send anybody inside because it was too far gone. But if you get a house fire or some other building, all this stuff's got to go on to protect us. So, anyway. So, the next thing we want to talk about, that's pretty much the fire part of it. When we're done, we're happy to answer any questions you have. But another part of this whole safety thing is what we call fall prevention. Because, I use my mother's example. 3 months ago, she fell and broke her hip. Okay, she's 90 years old. You can fall, for a variety of reasons. But you get into homes, facilities, apartments, whatever. Who can give me some examples of things that you have seen people fall over or that you see are hazards?
Rugs.
Rugs, okay? Rugs are a perfect example for a couple reasons. One is the thickness of them, okay? And especially if you might be working with an elderly person, those legs don't come up as much anymore. And secondly, with the eyes, they don't see them. And thirdly is the placement of it. Where is that rug? You know, is it in a main walkway where somebody can trip over? So, good one. Who else?
Furniture.
Furniture.
Yes.
Okay, another one is furniture is good, and it's the same thing as far as the placement of it, and the same hazards are true. Eyesight especially, and the eyesight isn't necessarily geared to the elderly. You know, a lot of young people have eye problems, and some of the conditions that you're actually working with in a rehab or a caring situation. What was the other one you mentioned?
Pets.
Pets, exactly. Pets get in the way. And pets always seem to follow you around, don't they? You know, they always follow you around. They're always in the way. But they sure are easy to trip over. Good one. Anything else?
Carpet.
Cords, okay. Cords is a good one. We showed all of our spaghetti cord over here. But the same thing, the placement of cords. Where are they? A lot of times they're under rugs. So neither one should be there. Okay? Get them out of the way. Okay, I heard another one.
Carpet.
Carpet?
Yeah.
Carpeting, especially in some of the older facilities or older homes you get into, is the long shag kinds of stuff. That's easy to trip on. That's a good one too. Anything else?
A lot of times, they trip over their own self. They don't have their shoes.
Yeah, they trip over themselves, and that's a good point, because depending on the reason you're there for working with them, could be physical, they could have had some injury, there could have been some disease or something they've had that affects their balance, affects their weight bearing, whatever, and in those situations, they can trip over themselves.
Steps or doorways.
Steps, doorways, steps are especially, if you're, I would imagine sometimes you're into homes that aren't all on the same floor, so people might go up the steps. Doorways, you can walk into them, they don't open properly. Anything else?
Slip and fall in the bathroom.
Slip and fall in the bathroom, perfect. And I'm going to change that to really wet surfaces, because that could be not only in the bathroom, but any place where there's water. It could be in the kitchen as well. And so very much a slippery situation on the floor, or even if the tub, in case you have to bathe them, you have to be careful in that situation as well. Anything else? We mentioned a couple other things that we have seen. One is adequate lighting. Okay, a goodly number of people have to get up at least once during the night to use the restroom. And this is why I always take one of these little night lights around. You'd be surprised at 3 o'clock in the morning how much light this will put out. But if you get into a facility, a home, and they don't have a night light, you might want to suggest to nursing, back to the family, hey, get one of these little cheap night lights. They're very inexpensive, and you'd be surprised how much light I can put out when you're sleeping and in the dark. This would be enough light in order to do that. Another one we've seen sometimes is toilet seat levels. You may get into someone's home where it's an older home, and it's where those toilet seats are almost on the floor, right? And so in that case, as you know, they make the risers that can be put on there in case they haven't done that. That could be a suggestion, but that can be a fall thing as well. Included with that would be like grab bars in the bathroom, in the shower, in the tub, whatever you have chosen through nursing as far as bathing and so on. In talking with these people, if they're mentally capable, get them to realize what their limitations are, because you might be there just for 2 hours, 4 hours and leave. Stress with them to remind them, just remember your limitations, because of your age or your physical disability or whatever. Just remember there are certain things you can't do, and it's important for you to stress on that kind of thing with them as well. Okay? So those are some of the things that we see and some of the things that can encourage you to encourage the people that you work with. Just in closing, before I turn it over to Ted, just some other things that are available. I'm sure you've all heard of the medical alert buttons that people can get either around their neck or on their wrist. If people aren't aware of that, or if you think that might be good for someone you're working with, again, refer that to nursing and let the family make that decision. But these there's a variety of companies that provide that, and those are good safety measures. They can go anywhere from something that the individual would press. There's even kinds that if you fall and you pass out, they're more expensive, but even those will activate by themselves. So there's different levels of those that you can. There's also, as you work with people, be it of age or physical disabilities or whatever, there are companies. This happens to be one called Buck and Buck. And these are clothing specifically designed for individuals with special needs. Again, be it age, be it physical disability. And a lot of this stuff makes it a lot easier for them to dress rather than monkeying with buttons and zippers. There's a lot of Velcro kinds of things, be it shoes or pants or shirts or jackets, whatever. There's a lot of these companies out there that are really good, that can help these people live a little more safer and enjoyable life. You have to imagine this, I guess, but this is my steering wheel, okay? Now, a few years ago when I was in driver's training, they taught me that, okay, when I drove, one hand at 12 o'clock on the steering wheel and the other hand at 9, or at 3, depending which way I want to do it. A little bit later, they went to 11 and 2. Okay. Now the recommendation is either 6 and 3, or down here at 7 and 9. Who can tell me why they've changed it?
Airbags.
Very good. Airbags. Because if you're up here like this and that airbag goes off, the arms are going to go wham, right like this. And there have been numerous documented accidents that have caused this: skull fractures, broken wrists, broken arms, all because of airbags. And I did this presentation in about 3 months ago to a church, a senior group. And a week later, there was a gal that had a head-on slippery story down on Lake Michigan Drive on the west side, and she got hit head-on by somebody who lost control of her car. And I saw her later. I said, "Mary, where'd you have your hands on the steering wheel?" And she says, 6 and 3. I says, "Good for you." Because the airbag deployed, she got that in the face, and had, some pressure on the chest. But she said, had I been up here, she might have gotten a skull fracture, broken nose, wrists, arms, whatever.
You're saying 9 and 3 is what you really need.
9, yeah, not 6 and 3, 9 and 3. Yeah. Yep. At least 9 and 3. Okay? Or 4 and 8 down here. So, but these are just things, whether you're driving, some of the folks you work with drive as well, just something to chat with them. And they say, "Oh, by the way, did you know?" Because it's interesting, the technology nowadays, okay, airbags are great. But, okay, now that affects how you put your hands on the steering wheel. We're finding with the new automobiles, with the new structures they're putting together, our jaws of life that we've been using for a long time, we got to change that now because the metal is so strong that we have to use a whole different way to get into it. So technology is good, but it creates a whole new set of of things. So just some information to pass on to you. I'm going to turn it over to Ted for a few minutes. Within the city of Grand Rapids, they've started a new program for people in target areas who do not have smoke detectors in their homes. And if you happen to see this somewhere in the Grand Rapids area, give us a heads up, either through Kathy or myself, whatever, and we could get these people on the list because they're being installed at no charge. So we want to do whatever we can to protect the people. So,
Well, I thank you. I'd like to start off with commending everyone for the job you guys do, because, you know, helping those that need help is an important task. Not everybody acknowledges the importance of it, and I certainly do, because I just don't have the ability to do that. I'm better with children than I am with the aged, so I commend everyone here and appreciate what you do. What we have here is a program that we put together because we had, like the nation does, we have an issue with people dying in homes without working or without any smoke alarms. And just for a matter of reference, last year Michigan lost 64 of its citizens to home fires. Out of those 64 home fire deaths, 40% of them had no smoke alarm. Of the remaining 60% of them, half of them only had working smoke alarms, and not enough of them. Okay? So if there's anything we can do to help prevent that from happening, early notification is it. Because as I discussed when I was with Kathy about the fire, how rapidly it grows and spreads, in a room this size, you got 4 minutes before it's what's known as an untenable situation, which leads to a situation called flashover, where everything in the room spontaneously ignites with fire. That's not a lot of time. I've been up here about 2 minutes now. So, with that said, it's an important project that we started with, and what we did is we found our 5 neighborhoods that we have the most fires that occur in. And of those 5 neighborhoods, we found that most of those were in single-family owner-occupied homes. A lot of them were cooking fires, there's a few other causes. But the neighborhood associations, Creston, West Grand, Southeast, Garfield, and South End neighborhood associations, we set up a program with a federal grant to go into the homes on invite. If the owner of the home wishes us to come in, we will go into the home and evaluate the home for safety, looking at things like slip, trip, and fall hazards, overloaded outlets, excuse me, other things that can cause or contribute to the spread of a fire. Looking for a better word to say than hoarding, but too much storage of perishables inside the house. We're also working with organizations to help ameliorate and abate the situations at low or no cost. Home improvements and division, they have contractors that will come in and do repairs that are needed. Some of the repairs and issues that we found, very first home that we went into, we found an open gas line. There was a gas valve on it, but no cap on it. Now, ironically, that same week we had a gas explosion in a house. Okay? It's an important thing just to look for. We found a bunch of open electrical issues. We found one house that had absolutely no cover on their electrical panel, and it was in an area where the grandchildren were playing. So these are the kind of issues that we're looking for. Let me show you this. We do a home evaluation with the resident. We do a pre and post test so that we can show that we did some education with the resident and the members of the home on simple issues like, do you know how often you're supposed to test your smoke alarm? Does everybody here know how often you should test your smoke alarm? 6 months. I hear 6 months. Anybody else? Do you know that it's supposed to be every month? Every month you're supposed to reach up there, push that button, and wait for it to beep. What does that do? It tests the electrical, but it also tests to make sure that the battery is still working. If you have a can, and oddly enough, I know it sounds weird, but they sell canned smoke. You can spray into it. Read the instructions. It's supposed to be 1 to 3 feet away from it. Don't just stand there. But that will test its function and operation. But every month you should test your smoke alarm. Most people don't know that. Other things that we ask is, does your smoke alarm have a hush button? Why would that be important? Anybody here ever burn toast? Okay, what do you do when you burn toast? That dang thing, and you put it in a drawer. Okay, how good is it in the drawer? Because by the time smoke gets down there and seeps into the drawer, you're dead. Okay, that's what we're trying to prevent is death and injury. Anyway, there's all of these different areas that we will check in the home. The outside, the inside, the basement, the bedrooms. We'll look for hazards and help them to educate them on how they can abate those issues. And along with that, we will install smoke alarms, as many as needed, in the homes, the 10-year lithium ones. Now, the big advantage of these is, and everybody here remembers putting a 9-volt battery on a smoke alarm, right? There's no way you can get to the battery. These are sealed. You can never take the battery out of it.
But it doesn't run down.
It has a 10-year lithium battery in it. This lasts for 10 years, which is the lifespan of a smoke alarm. So after 10 years, you take this down, you install a new one at that same time. Did you catch that part? Then you take this to your local fire station or Kent County and recycle them. Because there is a radioactive isotope inside here, which actually is the sensing chamber. Okay? So we recycle them along with the battery that's inside. But we will install up to as many as needed in each home, which, anybody here know how many smoke alarms you should have in your home?
One in each room?
One, oh, that'd be good. A little overkill, but that'd be good.
One for each bedroom, right?
One in each bedroom. One outside of each bedroom. If all the bedrooms are in the same hall, one's fine. One on each occupiable level. That's important because we all have, well, we don't all have, but there's a lot of homes that have an attic space that you can walk up into, but it's unheated. That's unoccupied. Unless you're sleeping up there in the middle of winter. I don't think so. Okay, basement, if it's not a crawl space, it needs one there. Okay, we will install them throughout the home. Now, in these neighborhoods that I talked about originally, that's where 40% of our fires, 50% of these homes that the fires occurred in didn't have working smoke alarms or a smoke alarm at all. And that's the reason we're doing this program. We have handout information for everyone in English and Espanol. That'd be Spanish for anyone who doesn't know that. We teach them because it's not if fire will occur. Statistically, it's when a fire will occur. Because everybody in this room is going to experience fire at some point in life. It may be just a little fire that, oops, I accidentally happened to forget my fish cooking on the stove. And you put a lid on it and it went away. You still experienced a fire. But you need to know if you have a fire and it's in the middle of the night or you're trapped in one room, how to get out. That's what this is about, an escape plan. You need to have 2 ways out of every home, out of every business. So anybody know that there's an exit right over there? There's 2 ways out of this room already. Okay? And I tell you that because you're going to be in other buildings, like Van Andel Arena. How many people know how many exits there are in the Van Andel Arena? Okay, there's 14. Why do I know that? Because every time I'm there, I check them all. Why do I do that? Because I want all of you to enjoy a good show and go home alive. That's why. If there's something that goes wrong, be it a fire or in today's world, we all know it ain't about fire anymore. You got to know where your exits are. You got to be able to get out. Okay? But back to the home program, we're going to teach them about an escape plan. We'll even work with them if they want to. Otherwise, we'll leave this information with them. And we made it even simpler. Are you prepared for a fire? We made it with pictures, so the reading level doesn't have to come into play. This does come in Spanish and explains the whole program and safety tips and your escape plan. And that is the extent of the program. I will leave this information here. Currently, we're only working in those 5 neighborhoods because that's what the grant is for. And once the grant expires, we run out of money, then we have to stop the program. But we're trying to get more and more grant funding so that we can get a smoke alarm in every home.
When you said southeast area, what area was that?
Southeast Neighborhood Association, that whole area. If they're inside that Southeast Neighborhood Association, that's one of our target
That's
areas.
as far as Grand Rapids lines or Kentland or what?
No, it's just in the city of Grand Rapids. I know you can't really see the map real well, but city of Grand Rapids is broken up pretty much like a jigsaw puzzle. Everybody ever play the jigsaw puzzle? They're kind of messed up on the edges. So
Okay, gotcha.
if you don't know the neighborhood association, or what neighborhood you're in, you can call number right here, my Vanna White impression, 456-3966, yeah, upside down, look like 99. Okay, and ask them, have the address, let them know. They will look it up on their map and they'll tell you if it's in our included area. A lot of the other neighborhood associations do have smoke alarms that they can give to people, but they don't all install them. The important part is they have to be installed. Like I said, if you burnt toast and you put it in a drawer, it's doing you absolutely no good. When I first started with the fire department, we had a fire inspector who went to a home on a complaint, took the complaint, it was about a business, and he noticed that there was no smoke alarms in the home. He went to the office, grabbed a smoke alarm, went back, and gave it to the resident, asked them if they would install that because they were leaving and he couldn't install it. That weekend there was a fire. 2 of the 3 children in there died. They found the smoke alarm in the box in the kitchen drawer. Okay? Your first line of defense, that's all we're trying to do. Any questions?
We threw a lot of stuff at you, but any questions at all of anything we talked about, or?
When do you put your uniform on? Is it when you see how bad the fire is, or when you're leaving?
If there's a fire, we put it on. When we're leaving, the pants, boots and pants go on, if it's a fire. If it's a fire call, if it's a medical call, no, really no. If it's a fire call, boots and pants will go on. We'll start donning our gear on the way there. In other words, we'll have the jacket on and be ready to put the mask on. But until we arrive on scene and see how bad it is, we won't put the mask on because you don't have a limited amount of air in your tank.
Yeah.
And, you know, you don't want to waste it before you get in there.
No. But on the truck on the way, we'll have it all on. The tank is in the seat right behind us.
It's built right into the seat.
And if we pull up, we'll put it on. The tank is good for about a half hour. However, if you're exerting yourself and working hard, you've cut that time about in half. And there's bells and whistles that go off in that thing that you're able to hear it squeal.
And you start working hard just by walking.
The adrenaline kicks in.
Good questions. Any others?
Appreciate a chance to be here. Hope you've learned some things. And keep fire safe, fall safe.
Should we also make sure that there's a fire extinguisher in the home as well?
Well, fire extinguishers are a good idea if someone knows how to use it.
Okay.
Here's what I've run into with fire extinguishers. Everybody thinks it's a great idea, and to be honest with you, if you know how to operate it, it is. But what people will do is they'll pull it and it'll go just like this. And they're only piling it all up right in one spot. So if they're not educated on it, and in elderly homes or people that have medical challenges, they don't have muscles and strength to.
But as a caregiver.
As a
We
caregiver.
want to know the proper way to use one. Are we allowed to come to the fire department and you guys could give us a at our own leisure and go to our
The
local?
City of Grand Rapids Fire Department does not do that kind of training.
Would Cedar do it?
Cedar Springs? I don't know if they do. But I do know that there is fire extinguisher companies. There's fire extinguisher companies that have live trainers,
Okay.
which I do mean live, it's a fire you put out. And they either ask you to go to their site or they will come to your site and they will train all of your staff on it.
It would be nice to know what advisable. I know that if you're in a situation, it's best to get the client out of the home
Very much.
and then call 911. But if it's a small enough fire that can be taken care of and you want to quickly, grease fire, you know, what chemical, I mean, what is it that they use to spray on grease, or is it quickly cover it?
Quickly cover it, shut the heat off.
Or just get the heck out.
Salt.
Baking soda, but,
Right, well,
But sometimes.
good idea.
it's-
Here's where the problem is. You grab baking soda instead of baking powder, you got a like Flour, throw flour on it. You know, did you know that flour is actually an explosive?
Flour, yeah.
In a flour mill, it's built as a high explosive plant because flour explodes. It aerates. Cremora, you know, the stuff you put in your coffee, that's flammable too.
Milk too.
Liquid? Liquid milk? No. Powdered milk? Yes. But yeah, no, good question, and I would strongly recommend and encourage the training, but without someone knowing how to use it and how much to use it.
Because we can be told there's a fire extinguisher in the home, but you're right, it's the proper use of it. And if you don't know, you're going to make a bigger mess. So
And then if the extinguisher in the home hasn't been tested, or most home people don't have to have them inspected, but here's the thing, the powder in it is sodium bicarbonate, the same stuff you take for the stomachache, okay? But over time it cakes.
Okay.
Just like your baking soda. When you open up the box of baking soda, it's nice and flaky. A year later, it's cakey. Okay.
So the conditions of where you keep it can affect it, temperature.
Temperature can affect it, but mostly it's time. Gravity pulls down on it, it cakes up.
All right.
There's tips and things you can do to loosen that up. Tap it on a concrete floor. Don't slam it, you'll break.
Right.
Those kind of things. But the extinguisher company can walk you through those. The best thing to do is make sure that it's new within the last 2 years for the residential ones. For commercial ones, they have to be new, or have to be inspected every year.
And then mine's no good, it's way old, so I'm going to get rid of it.
Okay,
So-
but then
I
get
do
training.
want to
Your question about the fry pan that's on fire, turn the heat up, put the lid on, call the fire department. Anytime there's a fire, call the fire department. There is no penalty, there is no fine, there is nothing, but the important part is that fire could have whiffed its way behind the hood and started a fire in the wall. And 2 hours later, it's coming out the roof. It's actually happened.
So just get out.
Get out, you got a cell phone, 911.
And I think the important part about getting out is one of the things you need to do, any of those clients you're taking care of, one of the first things you need to do is have a plan of escape in your head. You know, there may only be one way to get out, but have that clear in your head. If something happens, how are we going to get out? That's more important than how am I going to put the fire out.
Right.
That's secondary. First thing, how am I going to get that client out?
Yeah, those that are paid to put fire out, they put fire out.
That's our job.
Okay.
All right, let's say thank you to these nice gentlemen for putting us on there.